In 2003, a German-led expedition discovered the ancient city of Uruk in Iraq. It's supposed to be the tomb of King Gilgamesh. The team used modern technology to scan the soil and create a magnetogram that virtually revealed the architectural plan of the ancient city. In the former Euphrates River area, researchers discovered the remains of a building that could be interpreted as a tomb, which matched the description of Gilgamesh's tomb in the Epic of Gilgamesh. However, Jörg Fassbinder of the Bavarian Department of Historical Monuments in Munich said that he could not definitely confirm that the tomb belonged to the ancient king, but that it closely resembled the description in the epic. Gilgamesh himself is considered a Sumerian, Akkadian mythological hero, a giant over 5 meters tall. Translations of several texts published in recent decades allow him to be accepted as a real historical figure, and more specifically, as the 5th ruler of the first dynasty of the city of Uruk in Sumer. Most likely, after his death, Gilgamesh was deified. To make things even weirder, on the U.S. State Department website in the Freedom of Information Act area, we find an email with requests for documents relating to the Gilgamesh resurrection chamber, the location of his body, and that of the buried Nephilim. The email is found on page 470. Why did the State Department emails include a message relating to the resurrection of Gilgamesh and the location of the buried Nephilim? What happens after the supposed discovery of the ancient tomb is found out? We'll find the answers to this and other questions in this video. The discovery of the ancient city of Uruk sheds new light on the historical context of the legendary Sumerian king and his burial. Gilgamesh is one of the most highly revered figures in ancient Mesopotamia mythology and is believed to be the 5th king of Uruk. In many of the stories and epics in which he appears, he is considered a demigod or god king. Gilgamesh is also believed to have played a role in the afterlife as a judge of the dead in the underworld. He is also described as the lord of the animals. His story and legends have been passed down through the centuries and are the subject of many literal works and archaeological discoveries. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, a set of inscribed clay tablets, it is described that he was buried under the Euphrates River in a tomb that was built when the waters of the river parted after his death. The epic is an epic poem from Mesopotamia and is one of the oldest literal works preserved to this day. The plates and records date back to 2100 BC. The location of the tomb was discovered by a German expedition by detecting differences in the soil. Thus, they created a magnetogram, which was then digitally mapped to obtain a detailed structure of the area. This technology allowed them to cover over 100 hectares, and to the great astonishment, they discovered structures already described with incredible accuracy in the Epic of Gilgamesh, such as houses, gardens, and fields. In addition, they discovered an advanced system of canals that made the city look like a water oasis in the desert, testifying to a highly developed civilization. We found an area just outside the city, in the bed of the former Euphrates River, the remains of a building that can be interpreted as a funerary, said Mr. Fassbinder at the time. At this stage, I still don't want to say for sure that it is the tomb of King Gilgamesh, but the resemblance is striking to what is described in the epic. The Death of Gilgamesh. In fact, the end of Gilgamesh's days is very well recorded in the Sumerian work, The Death of Gilgamesh. Although its theme is found in the Epic of Gilgamesh, it is not always included in modern translations. The poem describes the death and burial of the heroic ruler of the city of Uruk. In Sumerian tradition, Gilgamesh was considered the true king. He's believed to have been born of the divine mother Ninsun and the mortal father Lugalbanda. The narrative of the death of Gilgamesh begins with the hero lying in bed, terminally ill. In his dream, his destiny is revealed. He has reached the end of his appointed time on Earth and will become the master of the underworld. After Gilgamesh dies, the text moves on to a description of his burial, which may refer to the tombs, his beloved wife, his beloved son and his younger wife, his favorite singer, butler, and his favorite barber, his favorite attendants who served in the place, his favorite subjects, when they lay down in their place with him. As in the pure palace of Uruk, Gilgamesh, son of Ninsun, weighed the gifts for the meeting. Ereshkigal weighed the gifts of Namtar. The text continues with similar brief descriptions of the offerings made to about 20 deities and to several types of priestly functionaries, all of whom are now dead. Undoubtedly at the time, archaeologists were convinced that this revolutionary discovery would unlock long-forgotten secrets and fundamental change our understanding of history. However, someone else had other plans. Only about weeks after the discovery of Gilgamesh's tomb, the United States launched an invasion of Iraq. The forces Fassbinder and his dedicated team to hastily abandon their research and evacuate the country, leaving the mysterious secrets of the discovery shrouded in obscurity. From then on, no one came close to this discovery, or at least it's not widely known to have. In recent years, the drying up of the Euphrates River has opened the door to newer and newer revelations about our history. Unfortunately, by coincidence, or perhaps not so coincidental, most of them end up in a war zone. You may remember this from our previous videos where we mentioned to you the further or any research is not possible due to the fact that the object falls into such an area. This is exactly the case with one of the alleged locations of the Garden of Eden that we have told you about. It seems that officially no one explores these deposits of our ancient and forgotten history. However, it turns out this is not quite the case. State Department emails released under the Freedom of Information Act. A screenshot of an email from the State Department claimed to request documents related to the Gilgamesh resurrection chamber and the location of the buried Nephilim has recently been circulating online. It's not clear from the information whether the requests were fulfilled. It is assumed that the Nephilim mentioned in the request really means the descendants of fallen angels and humans as described in religious texts. The existence of the email has not been confirmed by authoritative sources, and we have to inform you that it's not clear whether it's authentic or the case of some kind of hacker's scam. However, the fact is that as of today, the email requesting documents about the Gilgamesh resurrection chamber and the location of the Nephilim is still on page 470 under number F2019-02110 in the FOIA Freedom of Information Act, Log of State Department, 2018. It is also important to know that the accuracy and context of this email before drawing any conclusions. Dimitri D. Siniger is listed as the applicant for the request on the State Department's documents website. When we check this name, thousands of individuals appear on the internet, and there's no way to get meaningful information about this person. This may be a pseudonym used by someone else. There's also been a speculation that the email may be cryptic discussion in which Gilgamesh was possibly used as a code name for something else. It's not clear what the buried Nephilim could be referring to, and it's unlikely that a message with such a title would be used to hide a code name, attracting so much attention in itself. The Nephilim are mentioned in several ancient texts and are believed to be a group of angels who rebelled against God. Subsequently, they decided to make their home with the daughters of men on earth, which led to the birth of giants. The book of Genesis describes them as mighty men who were of old, men who became famous. The term Nephilim is derived from the Hebrew word nephal, which means to fall or fallen. The exact nature and origin of the Nephilim are subject to debate and interpretation, but they are generally believed to be a group of powerful and supernatural beings. In some traditions, they are seen as evil and destructive, while in others, they are portrayed as heroic and righteous. Their actual existence has been a much debated topic for centuries. Perhaps one of the craziest ideas we've come across is that the government is trying to resurrect fallen angels to wage war against God. Naturally, this is not based on any credible scientific or religious theory, nor is it supported by any concrete facts. The theory goes on to say that dark matter research, conducted by CERN, is being conducted in pursuit of the awakening of the beast. Of course, they also are not supported by any reliable sources or evidence. If anything is clear, it is that in 2003 we learned that we were on the brink of a revolutionary discovery that would change our understanding of human history forever. And it's been 2 decades since then, as if it never happened. Well, it's clearly not the case for everyone, because somewhere someone is still interested in this discovery and on the path of logic, and if he wants to know where the resurrection chamber is, Gilgamesh and the Nephilim are clearly not where they were in 2003, because then a simple search on the internet would answer this question. We hope you don't feel disappointed that you didn't learn more about Gilgamesh himself, but after 2003, when his tomb and body were supposedly found, this is the story today. If you like what we do, let us know by letting us know in a comment and subscribe to the channel. Remember that not everything is always as it seems.